we go. We're going to do what I'll call like double chain rule, which isn't, I don't know if that's a technical term or not, but that's okay. So every chain rule we've done so far is just, not everyone, but most of them had just a big guy and a little guy. But you can definitely get situations where you got like a big guy, a little guy, and then a tiny guy, or like a big guy, middle guy, little guy. So I'm going to run through a couple examples, talk about a couple different ways to do them. I want you to do number 1 through 5 on the worksheet, and we'll do the rest tomorrow. So let's say I had like sine of tan of 4x. So what we've got here is our big guy. This is like our middle guy. And this is our little guy. So there's 3 levels instead of 2. So you always set u equal to 1 less than the big guy. So if the big guy here is sine, which it is, then the middle guy is this tan of 4x. So basically everything except the big guy becomes u. So in this case, I'm going to set u equal to tan of 4x. I need to find du then. And now what we have to realize here is this is like its own chain rule problem. So there's, in this u, there's a big guy and a little guy. Some of you, and especially as we go forward, will get to the point where you can just look at this and take the derivative of it and kind of do the chain rule in your head. Some of you, and especially early on, are going to want to go over to the side and just start off with, okay, let's say y was equal to tan of 4x, and let's do the process to find the derivative. So u would be 4x, du would be 4, so the original problem would be tan of u. The derivative then would be sec squared of u times du, and then you would plug back in and get this. So what we just found here is this du. But like I was saying, I think most of you will be able to get to a point where you're saying, okay, I take the derivative of the big guy, that's secant squared. I leave the little guy alone, and then I multiply by the derivative of the little guy. And I get the same thing either way. This is more of like a process that's going to work every single time, but this is a lot faster. So on my notes here, I'm going to do both, and you're going to, you know, as you go, you're going to figure out which one works best for you, and you're going to do it that way. I'm not even done. All I did here was find out what u and du is. I still have to plug back into the original problem. So now this is sine of u. The derivative of sine of u is cosine of u times du. Now I plug back in u and du. So this is my end result. So we got 2 chain rules, and you can take care of, so we're taking care of one of them with this u and du. The other one you kind of take care on your own, or you do like another process, and you can go about it either way. So let's say, excuse me, cosine of the square root of x squared minus 1. So cosine is our big guy, which means u is everything else. So u is the square root of x squared minus 1, but I'm going to write it like this because that's easier to take the derivative of in that form. So now for du, again, 2 ways. Some people it's going to be easier for you to go off to the side, pretend that was the original problem, and work it out this way. So if I were doing this, u would be x squared minus 1, du would be 2x. The original problem would become u to the 1/2. The derivative of that is 1/2 u to the negative 1/2 times du, and then I put back the u, and I plug in the du. This is this. But some of you don't need to do that to get to it. I think a lot of you can just go, okay, that's my big guy, I take the derivative of the big guy. Taking the derivative of 1/2 power means I bring it down, I reduce by 1. What do you do with the little guy? You always leave it the same, and then you multiply by the derivative of the little guy. So again, you got options here. If you're doing it this way, the shortcut way and it's working, great. If you're doing it this way and it's not working, then I would suggest you go to that one. And again, we're not done. All that did was get us what u and du is. I still have to go back to the beginning and say, okay, y equals cosine of u. The derivative of cosine of u is negative sine of u times du, and then plug back in. So u is this x squared minus 1 to the 1/2. And du is all that other nonsense. And we got one more issue here, is that you can't have negative exponents. So we're going to take anything that has a negative exponent and put it on the bottom. That 1/2 kind of splits it up for me. So I've taken care of that. This I'm going to throw on the bottom and make the exponent positive. And then everything else goes on top. So you don't really need the 1, but negative sine x squared minus 1 to the 1/2 times 2x, and then what the answers on a multiple choice would probably do would be cancel out those 2's. You can't cancel out the x squared minus 1 to the 1/2 because one of them is being signed and one of them is not. But this would be, that'd be your answer. So you guys have done some of these already. I'm trying to like formalize it and present and make sure you understand both ways to do it. Again, I want you to do just number 1 through 5 on the worksheet. I'll take questions on those. We'll make sure we're squared away. And then I'll let you do 6 through 15. But I just want to make sure we're clear before we do too many of them.